The following was recorded during the COVID-19 pandemic through Zoom meetings in accordance with local health guidelines. Hi, I'm Mike Maloney, and welcome to another CSRM podcast. Today's episode is hosted by Dr. Greg Linville.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another podcast with CSRM, your host, Greg Linville, joined today by folks from Oklahoma Baptist University. And as many of you know, CSRM has academic partners. We really believe that it's important for people to receive solid, Christ-centered, biblically based, ministry-oriented training and get their credentials and their degrees. And Oklahoma Baptist simply is one of the best, if not the best, that we have in the whole country right now. And so joining us is Dr. Chad Payn. Chad, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
And you are in Oklahoma as we speak?
Yes, I'm in Oklahoma.
And are you at the university?
Yes, this is our recording studio here in Oklahoma Baptist University, Shawnee, Oklahoma. We're about 30 minutes outside of the Oklahoma City area in a small town of about 30,000.
Very good. And you're going to introduce guests that are coming on in this series of podcasts with us. There will be some students, and they are actually going to prove that they can take a course from you and remain sane. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Introduce who we have on right now.
Yeah, this is Carolyn Ward, and she graduated 2 years ago, and she came to OBU. I give her a hard time because she's from Texas, but she came up to Oklahoma from Texas, and she was in our sports ministry program all 4 years, did a wonderful job. She graduated as our outstanding senior in our division, so that's about over 200 students, and she was selected by all the faculty as the outstanding senior, so she's done a great job as a student here, but then she's gone on for the last 2 years and has been a sports minister, helping out sports ministries at First Baptist Carrollton.
Hi, glad to be here.
Yeah, welcome, Carolyn. We're really glad that you took the time, and we're really excited to hear from you as we go through this about your experience at Oklahoma Baptist University and also how that's propelled you into what you're doing today. And anybody that's associated with CSRM knows that we have a goal of equipping that local church and people like yourself so that they can go and reach that person who's far from Jesus and far from the church. And so we really are happy to know that you're out there doing that. Chad, let's start with you a little bit here, and let's just hear about your personal journey. You've got ministry background and obviously some academic background. How did you get from where you were to where you are? Take us on a little journey there.
That's a great question. Number one is I never dreamed I would be a professor. Never was on my radar. Never thought I would do this. I came to OBU as a student, and at that time it wasn't called sports ministry, but called church recreation. So I have a degree in church recreation from OBU. At that time, I thought God called me to go to Colorado and live in the mountains and do fun recreation stuff. But my senior year, I went to a sports ministry conference, met another sports director, and he hired me to come down to Houston and help run their sports ministry at Champion Forest Baptist Church in Houston. That's what started my career. And so I helped lead all of their children's sports, adult sports, teenage sports, their fitness center. And that's what started my career into sports ministry. I spent a good almost 9-10 years there in Houston. And then I went to the North Dallas area and helped open up a brand new sports ministry park that a church had built. And so it was mainly an outdoor sports facility, but we helped launch that ministry in Dallas for 3 years. And then I went to Georgia and was at Sherwood Baptist Church, where they have a sports ministry there. In that time, I had a mentor of mine who came to me, and he was, we were just having coffee together about sports ministry. And he said, one day I'm going to retire and I won't be able to teach anymore. Have you ever thought about teaching at the university? And I kind of laughed. I was like, no way. I graduated seminary and I said I was done with college and didn't want to go back to school. But I prayed about it, and I called several other mentors, leaders in my life about what would it be like if I did teach. And God just continued to open up the doors. And that's where I started my journey as far as getting my doctorate in sports administration, and then started teaching adjuncting. And just the main reason why I went into teaching was I had several mentors in my life who helped me get to where I was. And I would not be who I am without leaders and mentors all throughout my journey of sports ministry, whether that's going to conferences, mentors I met with on a weekly basis, other mentors I met with, on a yearly basis. But God just opened up and said, Chad, you need to mentor these students at OBU and help them with sports ministry. And so I've seen what sports ministry can do. When you share the gospel, I've seen dads who were not part of a church at all, and after 3 years of sports ministry, get to see them baptized in front of the church. I've seen families changed, and so I believe wholeheartedly that sports ministry is a great tool to share the gospel of Christ. And so I want to help train and mentor the younger generations as people have poured into my life when I was younger.
So Carolyn, beware of that coffee break, that when Chad pulls you aside, say, I want to have coffee with you. You'll see where this is going, right?
You'll have to spend about 3 hours of time.
Yeah. So, Chad, then how long has OBU had a sports ministry degree?
Yes, because that's a good question.
Is there a good answer?
Yeah. Yeah. I was not the one who started. Obviously, it was there when I was here. So in the 90s, it's changed names. So
Yes.
Sports ministries
Sure.
obviously was church recreation and named a little bit different. But since the 90s, it has had some type of sports ministry, church recreation degree being offered. And we also have a camp administration degree that goes with that, and that's very ministry focused. But there's a little bit more specific courses if a student wants to go into camping, like running a large Christian camp, recreation as well.
Who are some of the people that teach the courses?
Yeah, so obviously myself, and let me just say this, one thing about OBU is we are a teaching institution. And so for people who might not understand what that is, universities are either what's called an R1 university, which is a research university, or a teaching university. If you work for an R1 university as a professor, my main goal, not main goal, but I would be expected to publish, write books, do a massive amount of research where I would only be teaching maybe 1 or 2 courses a semester. Here at OBU, I get to be in the class for 5 to 6 classes a semester. And so I can't imagine really going to any other university because my passion is to be with the students and be in the classroom with the students, talking to the students, interacting with the students. And I have no pressure to publicize if I have to. So that's one thing about OBU is you're going to get a great relationship with your professors. And we actually just won a national award recently because of OBU's reputation with professors and students on there. But that being said, is I can't be the only one teaching all the classes. So Dr. John Gardner teaches, he's an adjunct professor for us every single semester. Dr. Tommy Yesick is another one who teaches every semester for us. And then we have other guests. I want the students to get as many, hear from as many people as possible, right? And so we've had Tim Conrad from Uncharted Waters. I've had Buddy Holland, Bill Wise, Greg. I'm hoping that you can come and start talking in our classes as well. We've also had Bob Schindler, who I teach a sports ethics class and deal with ethics within sports. And so Bob comes and he wrote a book on Does God Care Who Wins? And so he did a whole lecture on that, and the students read his book and wrote a paper. And the feedback from the students, just hearing Bob and several students have struggled with that ethical question, does God care who actually wins, right? In these sports. And so that was very life-changing for many of the students. And so
I mean,
bring as many people as we can.
Yeah, your professors are like a who's who, with Tommy and John and Buddy and Bob, Tim. These are literally the people that are writing the books, and so you have a very, very high level of people that are giving input and influencing lives like Carolyn. And I would just say to anybody that's watching or listening to this that I can vouch for the fact that these are the people that you can learn from, and you're going to get you're not going to get a better group of professors than you're going to get at OBU. And Chad, I don't even know if you're aware of, but that originally in the university system, the reason that we, and I have been a professor as well, we've been called professors is because we're supposed to profess what we believe. And OBU is a school that still professes what it believes. And not like a lot of universities, you're just supposed to believe whatever you want to believe, or everything's okay. Carolyn, help us, your relationship with professors and this idea that it's not a research institution, although Chad's researching and he is writing, etc., but that the focus is on the student, the focus is on the teaching. And you had to take courses outside of your major. Speak to a couple of your professors, and if you can by name, but you don't have to. How did that make a difference for you there at OBU?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I can vouch for the relationship with professors, how much they genuinely care about their students. And my relationship with Chad and he being a mentor with me is my biggest example for that, coming from OBU. And he and his wife opening his home to me, and having dinners, and all professors that I had having an open door and always being available. I had a student ministry professor that would hold us accountable for our quiet times with the Lord. And he would continually, when we see him around campus, asking us how our prayer was that morning or how our quiet time was with God. And I have another example. She's a finance lady. I had dinner at her house the first week. They kind of welcome in students, and different professors and faculty host dinners for students. And so I was a part of a group that went to a finance lady's house for OBU. And I had not seen her throughout 4 years of being there. But senior year, I had to go to the finance department to pick up a few different checks for different things. And she saw me, and I knew that she looked familiar, but she remembered my name from freshman year, from 4 years prior of having dinner at her home. And so that relationship with all the professors is something that's so true. And that they all genuinely care, not just about you as a student, but you as a person, you as someone who you are outside of the classroom. And so loves that. That was so formative for me in my experience, for sure.
It sounds just absolutely wonderful. And Chad, you know that I spent a few decades in that role, and boy, students in the home, and we go out and do the ministry together and those kinds of things. I still have those kind of really strong relationships here decades later. And Carolyn, you're on the front end of that, being 2 years out, but hold this guy accountable too, to keep doing what he's doing. But I hope that if you're listening into this, that you're getting a sense. Would it be too much of a stretch, Chad or Carolyn, to say that it's a family there? It's not just a university. How is OBU and its culture?
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to let Carolyn speak to that, coming from a student perspective of just your experience of not just in the classroom, but tell about OBU's culture here.
I think we can say yes, the professors and the faculty care so much about students, but I also want to throw in that students care so much about students as well. One of my fondest memories of OBU is so the last week of freshman year, they put you all up on the stage in front of the chapel, and all the returning students, the seniors and juniors and sophomores, begin cheering for you. And it's a 30-minute ordeal that they are screaming and so excited for you. And when you're looking over a crowd of students that you don't know, they don't really know you, but that they're genuinely excited and happy for you and welcoming you into the OBU family. That's something that from the very first week, I knew that this was a place that I would be welcomed into, in a place that I would be able to find my niche, but also know that there's the bigger circles of friends out there that genuinely care about you as a person, a student. And so the professor to faculty relationship is definitely there, but the student to student caring for each other and knowing that we all have a common goal and a common purpose to spread the gospel, whichever our professions that we go into, really bonded everyone and binds everyone together in that sense. And OBU, I think, focuses on that a lot, that through the gospel centrality of all their classes, everyone has a common goal. And so that really ties in the family mindset of OBU.
Chad, in our final few moments of this segment, what's the curriculum at OBU?
Yeah, absolutely. So OBU is a Christian liberal arts institution, right? And so when I say liberal arts, sometimes people are like, whoa, you're liberal. No, we're not liberal. What we mean is that we believe that God has called all of us for a well-rounded education. And so there's very biblical reasons that we should be growing intellectually, academically. And so for that reason, liberal arts means we have a core where every student who comes to OBU will be getting a minimum of 2 solid Bible courses, Old Testament, New Testament. They will be getting 2 courses of foreign language. They'll be going through what we call Civ. It's a pretty intense, and students get a little bit scared of it because it's a 1 year, 2 semester course on literature, history, understanding. It's taught through a biblical worldview. You get your math and your sciences, and so that's the liberal arts part of it. So we want a well-rounded. We don't want to tell students what to believe. We want to teach them how to think, right? And so OBU is not here to say, hey, Carolyn, you need to believe this. It's more of, Carolyn, let me present you some information and teach you how to think on your own with a Christian worldview, all right? And so we're all about changing the future. Well, make future shapers is our term here at OBU, all right? And then the sports ministry specifically, it's a very well-rounded. I teach a lot of the sports ministry, the sporting program part, like legal issues, organization administration, sport ethics, teach a few other recreation courses. However, our religion department, which we have world-class religion professors who are also teaching intro to evangelism, student ministry, how to be a pastor, pastoral care. All sports ministers have to take a counseling class, basic counseling, right? How do you help someone who comes into your office who might be struggling? So if a student comes to OBU, they're getting a very well-rounded education in a lot of different areas on there that's taught from all across campus.
Do you have any kinds of practicums that you do, internships?
Yes, and that's kind of my students kind of laugh at me because I preach that very heavily, right? And so practicums, internships are just huge. Actually, one of my very first things that I did as a professor here was I made it a requirement, and then I also upped the hours that they could get as a requirement on there. And so I'm a huge believer in networking and students talking to other people, practitioners, right? And so internships is a requirement for every student. They have to do what's called 3 credit hours, which one credit hour equates to 35 working hours, right? So some students choose to do that during the summertime. Some students have even chosen to take a whole semester off and be kind of like even if you think of a student teacher in the education program, sports ministers the same way. They take a whole semester off and they do nothing but do an internship, and they get full course credit, full hours for that. And so I'm constantly telling students, yes, the more internships you do, the better. And I would say Carolyn is a great example of this. Carolyn, when you were here, she did her summers and she did multiple internships with several places. And then when she was a senior, by I would say maybe even December, January, right before she left, she had several places asking her to come work for them because of her internships and because of the work she did. And so students who are like Carolyn, who are out and working during their 4 years, do very well when they graduate at OBU.
Well, we'll come back to that. And Carolyn, we're going to want to hear a little bit of your experience on that side of it. This is something that CSRM fully supports and recommends. And in fact, we're gonna wink at you, Dr. Payn. We recommend 7 hours of class credit because the internships are so important. And it sounds like your students are getting that. It's another reason that if you're watching or listening, that you should consider OBU for yourself or for somebody that you might know. They're producing some very, very solid and excellent sports, rec, and fitness ministers. And we're going to hear more about that in our upcoming segments. But for this one, thanks for tuning in with us this week. And Chad and Carolyn, thanks for you guys being with us. And we're going to come back and pick this up about the curriculum, talk about how people can get enrolled, what they can expect, and what else we can learn about from OBU. And I know I've been on the campus, have been there and helped teach classes in the past, and I fully recommend it personally. All right, we will see you next time.
The CSRM podcast is a production of the Association of Church Sports and Recreation Ministers and their video production house, Overwhelming Victory Flicks. Dr. Greg Linville is the executive producer, and Andrew Fouts is associate producer and editor. For more information about CSRM, visit csrm.org. For more information about Overwhelming Victory, visit overwhelmingvictory.org. The CSRM podcast is the flagship member of a new podcast network called Overwhelming Victory Radio. For more information on Overwhelming Victory Radio or to listen to our partner podcasts, visit overwhelmingvictory.org/OV Radio. For CSRM Podcasts, I'm Mike Maloney. Have a blessed day.